meneer die vice-kanselier, geachte dames en heren. Het is een baie groot voorrecht voor mij om hierdie, what is this thing? Whatever I'm going to be doing. It is a very great privilege. And thank you, John, for having asked me. As you can see, I'm not as young as I look, and would probably not have come out because I've got a slightly sexy voice just now. But I have come to speak at the launch of this very important collection, the Humanist Imperative in South Africa. And I say here, edited by my very dear friend, John. And congratulations to you all. A few months ago, I attended a symposium at the University of San Diego in California on human genomics. The only reason I was there is that I had consented to have my genome sequenced. During most of the proceedings, I was quite dumbfounded and told the gathering as a panelist that I knew the meanings of all the individual words they uttered. But I was completely befuddled by what they were saying. I mean, they really knocked me for a six. Heeltemal bo my viermakplek. You do know, of course, that my genome revealed that through my mother, I am related to the Khoisan. When that particular result was announced, the new Dean of Cape Town sent me an email addressed to the Bushi Archbishop Emeritus. I want to confess that I had a similar experience reading some of the papers in this anthology. So don't expect much profundity and erudite scholarship from this decrepit one who should have retired and stayed retired to the relief of all concerned. I want to salute you all for undertaking what is an utterly crucial project for our beautiful land. And I am relieved that you were not persuaded to abandon the enterprise because, for instance, you considered yourselves not sufficiently representative. To be human. To be human is to be in relationship, as I've read very few, about 3 or 4 of the essays, but those that I have read, almost all underscore this attribute of being human, that it is to be in relationship. They point out that we are made for interdependence. I concur wholeheartedly with that view, but would go on to say it is interdependence, a relationship of complementarity. I have gifts that you don't, and you have gifts that I don't. And so complementarity is crucial to this interdependence. Hence, no one can ever be fully human who claims to be self-sufficient. Indeed, the thoroughly self-sufficient one is in a real sense subhuman, because it is not good for men to be alone. Adam and Eve are in relationship because the one makes up what is lacking in the other. And somehow this reflects the interdependence and complementarity that belong to the divine God. The Father is God because the Son is God, as is also the Holy Spirit. Father is not the Son, as the Son is not the Holy Spirit. This must say something about diversity, that it should lead to not to disruption and division, but to a rich interdependence and complementarity. This verity is important for our common life together in South Africa, distinguished as we are by differences of ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, etc., etc. But can we be human together in this beautiful land? I would hope very much so. We have invoked the spirit of Ubuntu at the beginning of our journey together after the depredations of apartheid. The TRC, flawed as it was meant to serve as a tender bridge between our gruesome past and the future which was beckoning to us. We who were privileged to serve on that body soon came to a crucial realization that we were not some superior beings privileged to sit in judgment on lesser denizens. No, we were given an extraordinary privilege. We who were wounded and traumatized by being asked to be wounded healers, to use no one's apt phrasing. We try to reflect this even in the way we arrange the furniture at our so-called victim hearings. The commissioners and committee members were not elevated above the witnesses, as for instance the judge is in a court of law. No, we insisted that we arrange the furniture in such a way that it became clear we were all wounded. Dear friends, for those engaged in a quest for a compassionate and caring humanity, concerned to eradicate the disparities of a hugely unjust system, we have to acknowledge that we do not seem to have taken on board the fact of our woundedness. Apartheid damaged us all. Not a single one of us has escaped. I've told the story before, but it bears repeating. In 1972, I was working for the Theological Education Fund of the World Council of Churches, and our offices were in London. I had area responsibility for sub-Saharan Africa. I went to Nigeria for the first time then and was due to visit a theological seminary in the north, in the city of Jos. In Lagos, I boarded a domestic flight, and lo and behold, both pilots in the cockpit were black. Wow! I grew inches in self-esteem. We had a smooth takeoff, and my pride swelled some more. Then we hit the mother and father of turbulence. I will never forget to my dying day that my first thought, unbelievable as it may be, but true, my first thought as we were shaking and I was leaving my stomach up there, I said, hey, there's no white man in the cockpit. Will these blacks land us safely? Can you believe it? But that was the erosion that had happened of my self-esteem. This is what has happened to all our people. Thus, we must not be surprised at the staggering statistics of violent crime. Excuse me. Of murder, of rape. When you suffer from self-hate, you project it to others who look like you. And so we have so-called black-on-black violence, frequently gratuitous violence, where the victim of a hijacking is shot dead even when she has surrendered her car keys. It is shown in the disgrace of littering. This is not a function of poverty. Our parents were poor, but our surroundings were scrupulously clean because apartheid had not yet done its pernicious work. I am nothing. I am rubbish. And so it does not matter that I live amongst all this rubbish, which reflects what I think of myself. We show it in how we drive recklessly, inconsiderately, aggressively, because deep down we're angry. And so the appalling carnage on our roads during the holidays, horrendous statistics we just accept. When I wrote this was still true. 2 NFP leaders are assassinated in KwaZulu-Natal, but the third has just been, they've just reported that the third NFP leader was assassinated 3 in 5 days. And no outrage, just indifference from us all. And KwaZulu-Natal, we know just how many were assassinated. And these assassinations, you look at how they are reported in our papers, it's four children die in a fire. All black children. No outcry. We are wounded. The superior can have a careless disregard for others, easily justifying the unjust dispensations from which they benefited so much. Our white compatriots, all of you, have to accept what is so obvious. You all benefited from apartheid. We don't say you supported it, but just the fact of your being white. Your children went to good schools, you lived in posh suburbs. And yet so many of our white compatriots get very upset when you say so. Why? Some are crippled by a sense of shame and guilt. They deal with it by self-justification or just indifference. Both attitudes are responsible for our being less than who we can be. We are wounded. We are wounded, all of us. And my plea is especially for the faith communities, which were so effective in bringing about the demise of apartheid. Please realize your work is not over. Our faith communities must engage in the healing of people crippled and wounded. We will not be able to be human together in South Africa until we stare this vicious beast in the eye and render it impotent. One last plea. Ubuntu underscores sharing. That is why in the past in our communities, the black communities, you did not have individual dishes, plates. You ate out of a common dish. You drank beer out of one calabash. This is a twofold appeal. One of the major recommendations the TRC made was to say the gap between the rich and the poor is wide. It is dangerously wide. And we recommended that something ought to be done quickly to narrow this gap. Of course, as we know, South Africa has become notorious as being the worst example of the disparity between rich and poor. And there was a suggestion about a once-off wealth tax. And there were many who supported it in the white community. My appeal is, do you think you might consider agitating for something akin to this? The other part of my appeal is directed to our cabinet ministers. There is much dehumanizing poverty abroad. There are people in our country who unbelievably go to bed without a meal. I believe your handbook permits you to buy very expensive cars, and most of you have done so. In the spirit of Ubuntu, to show that you care, that you are compassionate, please sell your expensive cars and replace them with slightly less pricey ones to show you care about these poor people. Your humanity depends on it. Please